Well, good evening and welcome to our prayer and worship time this evening. It's Friday, the 3rd of April, and for those of you who are around and familiar with what happens at Parkhead, Nazarene, you'll know that the first Friday of the month is when we host Recovery Church, and it's usually a great time. Usually about 150 people gather together, and people from all different backgrounds, but mainly who identify with recovery and who themselves have perhaps been on a journey or walked with someone else who has been through a journey of recovery. But I invite you, even if that isn't you tonight, to stay with us anyway and to remain and to join in with our prayer and our worship. One of the taglines, one of the things that we say at Recovery Church is that everyone is recovering from something. So I invite you to join us tonight and to hear the testimony, to listen to God's word and to be impacted and blessed as we worship and sing and praise God together. The first thing that we do at Recovery Church is we remind ourselves why we gather together on the first Friday of every month. And we say together our preamble, and that's our statement of why we do what we do. So let me read that out to you just now. And if you're able to and you'd like to at home, then please feel free to join in. The words will be on the screen. Recovery Church meets today because a group of people realised that being willing to share their experience of life and hope can help them and help others grow in life and hope too. This is especially the case for those of us who have admitted that we are powerless to a particular substance or way of life. Recovery Church believes that all of us are recovering from something. For some, that has meant recovery from addiction to a particular substance or pattern of living. For others, it simply means recovering from life with its hurts, habits and hang-ups. Life that at times has seemed empty and hopeless. Recovery Church is not a substitute for other groups and fellowships. We encourage our people to remain in those groups. Rather, we are here to help one another explore the shared belief that a power greater than ourselves can restore us to life, peace and sanity. We believe that our recovery is strengthened as we come to know God and as we turn our will and life over to Him every day. Recovery Church therefore focuses on exploring and discovering the power of faith, hope and love with others who also want to know this power greater than ourselves. But Recovery Church is a church. It's a spiritual home and lifestyle that seeks to understand and know God through Jesus Christ. It's a Christian church in which all are welcome, whether with faith, other faith, or no faith. Our primary purpose is to help people find life and freedom in faith, hope and love with others who long for the same. Well, before we sing and begin with worship, let's just take a moment to quieten our hearts just now. To be still and to leave off all the distractions, the different things that might be plaguing our minds just now. If you're anything like me, then there's probably lots of things going through your mind at this particular time. But now is just a chance for us to worship God together, to put our focus completely on Him. In Colossians chapter 3, it tells us to fix our eyes and our hearts on Jesus Christ, who is seated above at the right hand of God. And we have a chance in the moments that lie ahead to do that. So let's just take a moment of silence just now, stillness before God. Jesus, we worship you tonight. And we long that in these moments, even though perhaps in recent days we haven't had as much chance to connect with those around us, we long that tonight we would connect with you deeply. That Jesus, we would encounter you in worship, that we would sense your presence with us. And Lord, we would also sense that unity, that togetherness that comes from worshipping you. Lord, we still believe in that truth, that when we gather together, when we gather in your name together, 2 or 3 of us, or however many there are, Lord, that you are here among us. So would we sense and know you with us tonight, God? And would you speak to our hearts and our lives? And would we be changed and transformed from encountering you afresh this evening? Amen. Alone in my sorrow, alone in my sorrow, and dead in my sin, lost without hope and no place to begin. Your love made a way to let mercy come in. When death was arrested, my life began. Ash was redeemed, only beauty remains. Because of you, we are redeemed. We are bought back from the old way of life, and we are given a new life. Thank you that you remove our heart of stone and you put your Spirit within us. Lord, thank you for all the exchanges that take place when we come to know you. Thank you that as we just sang there, the ash is redeemed, beauty remains. Thank you for every story, for everyone who's tuning in tonight, Lord, for every story of transformation, for everything that you have done, for all the many ways in which you have worked in people's lives, for all the deliverance, the redemption, and the freedom that you have brought. Lord, we thank you and we praise you this evening. And Lord, in a time of uncertainty, we choose to acknowledge that you are our God. Thus far, you have been our helper. Up to this point, Lord, you have always been there for us. You have never left us, you have never forsaken us. So God, we trust in you. In a time of uncertainty, in challenging circumstances, we say, God, we trust in our God, in your unfailing love, and we will not be shaken. For we trust in our God, and through his unfailing love, we will not be shaken. We will not be shaken. We will not be shaken. For we trust. For we trust. Though the battle rages, we will stand firm. Though the armies rise up against us on all sides, we will not be shaken. We will not be shaken. We will not be shaken. For we will not tremble, we shaking. So one of the things that we always try to do at Recovery Church is have an opportunity to hear testimony from people who are in recovery and have come to know God either in that process of coming to recovery or perhaps knowing God strengthening them in their recovery. And sometimes we hear stories as well from folks that have walked that journey with someone else. But for tonight, we recognise that this particular season of life with coronavirus is something that is very challenging for everybody, of course, but particularly for those of us who are in recovery. There are many folks that are used to having a network of support and meetings and different people to meet up with and keep them accountable, who are all of a sudden having to adapt to very different routines with much less support and contact perhaps around about them. And so what we thought we'd do tonight is hear from a couple of our folks and what this time has been like for them and what things that they have sought to do to ensure that both their recovery but also their faith in Jesus remains strong. So first up, perhaps a familiar face for some of us, we're going to hear a little bit from Colin, and Colin's going to tell us a little bit of his background but also what this period, this last few weeks has been like for him in both his faith and his recovery.
Hi everyone, my name is Colin. I'm a recovering alcoholic. In a week's time I'll be 8 months clean and sober. So for people who don't know me, I'm always outgoing, I'm very active within the church, do Bible studies and other groups. I'm also a member of Cocaine Anonymous, a 12-step fellowship. I also volunteer with Glasgow City Mission and Bethany Christian Trust. So with this coronavirus and being asked to stay indoors, my usual routine is up in the air. But I believe I've embraced this with a positive attitude. It gives me more time to spend with God. It gives me more time in prayer and worship and in the Bible. It also gives me more time to spend with my 2 daughters, which I really enjoy. I also practice the 12-step programme to the best of my ability. I also reach out to others through text messages, phone calls and the WhatsApp groups I'm involved in. I'm also involved in a group who deliver food parcels to people who are ill or to people who are isolating due to this coronavirus. The key for me is to keep my mind active.
Well, thank you for that, Colin. One other thing I'd asked Colin to speak a little bit about was if there were any particular verses from Scripture or any songs or anything just now that he was finding a particular encouragement and that was really getting him through these days. And here's what he had to say.
John, my go-to scripture reading comes from 1 Corinthians chapter 13 verse 48 that goes, "Love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it's not proud, it does not dishonour others, it's not self-seeking, it's not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil but rejoices in the truth. Always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails." So I used to live my life with anger and fear. Today I try to live my life with love and faith. There is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear. And my worship song I go to just now is "We Will Not Be Shaken." I listen to this because our God is for us. He is overcome, for we trust in our God. So today I decide to partner with love.
Well, thanks so much for sharing that with us, Colin. It's not easy doing these things on video and getting used to that, but I think it's something that we're all probably having to come to terms with a wee bit these days. We also wanted to hear from someone else tonight. So some of you might know Liz Dempster, who's been part of our church fellowship here at Parkhead and a recovery church regular for quite some time now. And Liz is a mental health nurse. So we thought it'd be great to hear a little bit about her perspective in these days. And the first thing that I just asked Liz to share about was how her being a mental health nurse, how her knowledge of that particular sphere prepared her or is preparing her to be someone who responds well during this time and also encourages others to respond well during this time as well.
Hi everyone, for those who don't know me, my name's Liz. I have been a mental health nurse for many years, and it has prepared me for this period of time that we have found ourselves in. There is a lot of uncertainty and worry for everyone. Everyone will feel this in some level. But part of my job is to support people who struggle day to day with mental health. But at this point, it's about supporting each other through this time. This is a time that we can't predict what's coming. We can only deal with the here and the now. There will be lots of anxiety around, and it's trying to keep that into perspective, that will be very normal at this point. However, there will be people that will be so debilitated by this. Thinking around isolation that we found ourselves in, thinking around that, how that will affect people who suffer from low mood and depression. It's about trying to reach out to each other and using all tools possible. You know, thinking around different ways to communicate, where before other ways we have taken for granted. It's about trying to use simplistic tools to keep our mental health good. These are things like eat properly, a healthy diet wherever we can, be as active as possible within, you know, the restraints that we have, even if it's things like hoovering, walking up and down your stairs, out the back garden, things like that. And trying to sleep well, trying to get good sleep hygiene. Thinking around, in this time, there is things that we can't control. However, there is elements of our life that we still can control. We all have family members, friends and neighbours who would be so grateful for any way of communication. I have been able to support family members who have got, you know, anxiety and worries around health conditions that put them in a vulnerable category, you know, and we all will know someone in that category. However, it's trying to support them to keep it into perspective and do what we can to help them to minimise this anxiety and worry. Thinking about this time for my family, you know, I am in the process of changing sites and what I work. We have the mental health services have been structured to facilitate this pandemic and the effect this will have on everyone within their mental health capacity. And thinking around this, you know, as recently, the small things that we used to take for granted, you know, I've probably become more active in this time because I know that I can only exercise one time a day, and I choose to do that with a walk with my family. However, before I might have put that off and said we'll do it tomorrow or we'll do it later. You know, it's about keeping gratitude. It's being thankful for the things that we can do, things that we have. You know, I'm so grateful that I have a back garden where, you know, some people live in flats and don't have the access to a garden. I'm grateful for quality time with my family. I'm grateful for being able to work at home to a degree just now. And people, it has made me reach out more to church, to Jesus, to God, you know, praying more, being more active in the online connections. You know, things that we used to take for granted are now lifelines. And I'm so grateful for everyone in my life. And thanks for listening.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us, Liz. One other question I'd wanted us to put to Liz was to ask her own personal experience of what this time has been like for her and her family. So let's hear a little bit about what she had to say about that.
This experience for me is allowing me to see God in work everywhere. You know, we're used to going 100 miles an hour and maybe not being as kind and as compassionate with each other as we should be. However, this has forced us to slow down and think of others, thinking of our neighbours, thinking of our friends, thinking of our families, and showing that if we have God in our life, that we have certainty, that we will be okay no matter what.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us, Liz, and thank you for the reminder that God is at work in all of this time, that He hasn't left us to deal with us by ourselves. He's not absent from us in this time, but He's very much here. He's working, He's in our midst, and reminding ourselves of these things is important in the days that lie ahead. I want just now just to sing a song that encourages us to reflect upon that and to remember that He's here, that He's still working, and He's still God. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship You, I worship You. You are here, working in this place. I worship You, I worship You. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship You, I worship You. You are here, working in this place. I worship You, I worship You. We make a miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who You are. We make a miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who You are. You are here, touching every heart. I worship You, I worship You. You are here, healing every heart. I worship You, I worship You. You are here, turning lives around. I worship You, I worship You. You are here, mending every heart. I worship You, I worship You. We make a miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who You are. We make a miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who You are. 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 Well, just as we think in closing about how we respond to some of the things that we've heard, even the testimonies this evening, I'd like just to leave us with three things I'd like to encourage us to do in this particular period of life. And that's three things that all theme around the word look, so that hopefully they're easy to remember. Firstly, I'd like to encourage us to look upwards in these days. Let me read these words from Psalm 121. It says this: I lift up my eyes to the mountains. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. Again in Psalm 123 it says something very similar. I lift up my eyes to you who sit enthroned in heaven. And what I realise is that we in life, in regular, normal, everyday life, before all this happened, is that we can often be people who walk around with our heads down. Sometimes we are literally looking down at a screen all day, for some of us. But for a lot of us, the busyness and the hurry of regular life has been paused in this season of coronavirus. And we have an opportunity to look up more, to lift our eyes up more to God and to things above. A lot of people have been saying or writing articles about how this is the kind of thing that happens once in a lifetime, that how one day our kids will be reading about this at school, studying this kind of thing and looking at how people responded. Well, if that is the case and you're finding yourself with more time, then I'd want to say this to you: don't let this once in a lifetime period pass you by without it being a time where you really seek to look upwards to God more and connect with Him. Just like Colin shared, make it a time of depth and strengthening, looking to God in His Word, praying more, worshipping more, being built up in Him. So that's the first thing, look upwards. The second thing I want to leave us with is this: let's be a people that look outwards as well. Look outwards to the needs of other people. The New Testament uses the term one another 59 times. In each of these times it states different ways that we are to help, serve and bless other people and not just think about ourselves. Some examples: Romans 12, it says that we are to honour one another above ourselves. Galatians chapter 6, it says that we are to carry each other's burdens. Ephesians chapter 4, it says we are to be kind and compassionate to one another. And this time that we're in just now is compelling us and almost forcing us, as Liz said, to put these things into practice. To move away from thinking purely about ourselves and start forcing us to think about other people and their needs. And I want to encourage you during this time to really make it a time where you look outwards to the needs of other people and not just think about yourself. To be someone who thinks about others and what they might be going through, whether as a result of ill health or social isolation or whatever it may be. And then be people that pray for other people, that do all that you can. Phone them up, ask them how they're getting on, think about their lives and their situations. Be a people that look outwards. But lastly, I don't want us to forget, as Liz mentioned there, to be a people as well that look inwards. We must be aware of our mental health and how we're feeling in and of ourselves, especially if we're helping other people. You know, in my own experience of physical and mental health over the years, one thing that's become really clear to me is that God cares about our mental health. He doesn't want us to be reckless with our own health and harm ourselves, but He wants us to live wisely, treating our bodies well, and to know when we need to look after ourselves. So lastly, look inwards as well as looking upwards and outwards. Look inwards so that therefore you are able to look upwards and outwards. And just like what we would do at Recovery Church, I'd like to leave some space open for us to reflect and respond to these three things. Perhaps you want to think about these three things that I've mentioned and see if perhaps there's one of these things that God is speaking to you particularly about just now. If you're with someone else this evening, then feel free to pray with them, maybe even ask them to pray for you. If you're on your own, then you can either pray by yourself in the quietness and the stillness, or you can feel free to write a prayer and post it in the comment box underneath this video. We're going to have some reflection questions that will appear on the screen and will help us and guide us in the next few minutes as we reflect and respond. But I encourage you, please take some time to consider what God might be saying to you and how He might be asking you to look upward, to look outward, or maybe even to look inward in this period. thank you for being with us this evening. It certainly hasn't been a regular recovery church night, but hopefully it's been something a bit different for all of us, and still a time where we've been able to connect with God, where we've been able to hear Him speak to us and sense His presence close to us as we worship Him. We're going to finish with a song that really sends us out. It's a song of declaration that Jesus Christ is enough for us and that we will never need anything else, and that He will always be the one who we will follow all of the days of our life. And then we're going to finish in a regular way at Recovery Church by saying together the words of the Serenity Prayer. So let's sing together, Christ is enough for me. Christ is my reward, and all of my devotion. Now there's nothing in this world that could ever satisfy. Through every trial, my soul will sing, no turning back. I've been set free. Christ is enough for me. Christ is enough for me. Everything I need is in you. Everything I need. Christ, my all in all, joy of my salvation. Now this hope will never fail. Heaven is our home. Through every storm, my soul will sing, Jesus is here. To God be the glory. Christ is enough for me. Christ is enough for me. Everything I need is in you. Everything I need. I have decided to follow Jesus, no turning back, no turning back. I have decided to follow Jesus, no turning back, no turning back. The cross before me, the world behind me, no turning back, no turning back. The cross before me, the world behind me, no turning back, no turning back. Let's say these words together, the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Well, again, thank you all for being with us tonight. We look forward to hopefully doing something again next month, the first Friday of the month. And don't forget to be a people who look upwards, who look outwards, and who look inwards. God bless you all.